Here we go. All right, speed endurance is definitely my weakest link in the deck. I can throw super far and I can jump well. Are there any adjustments I should make? Before every lift, I practice an event. I've been under the impression I'm getting all the speed work I need during hurdles, vault, long jump. Should I be doing something to get faster? There's a couple things to remember. You are younger, and the biggest thing for you is learning the events. So that's where most of the emphasis has been on the easy stuff, which is just speed work and endurance. Endurance is highly trainable. Speed endurance, max speed is hard to train. So you might need to add in some flies and things like that. But at whatever program you're going to be at, you're going to do a bunch of shit to develop that. What you're not going to do is a bunch of the event work. And that is why it's been a major focus for you is doing those things. But yes, we can adjust for more of the speed work if you'd like. The biggest thing is just getting fast fly times. Those are the things that are probably going to help you the most when it comes to getting faster at upright sprinting, and speed endurance is a function of max speed. So if you want to get faster, you got to do more max speed. I don't mind putting that in for you. I would say just be careful. It is very, very intense, and it is easy for guys to get hurt when they overdo it. In terms of endurance, you're probably gonna, like, if it's just like cardiorespiratory endurance, that is probably not a major like thing I would worry about. If the 1500 is your goal, then it's a bit silly. You're in a speed power sport doing 10 events. All of those events, pretty much all of them other than the mile, are dictated by your outputs, speed and power and top speed. So not a major concern on any of that stuff, but I did adjust your program. So please, please be careful. If you have questions, ask. Don't push through anything that's uncomfortable. What do I do on days where I feel weak, primarily grip strength, which I check with dead hang times? There is some evidence that grip strength is correlated with your neural readiness. I would actually encourage you not to go based off of that, though. It is very, very highly variable. Some days it's going to be accurate, some days it's not. I would not look at that as like a strong indicator of your readiness. If you're interested in doing more readiness assessments, what I'd probably look into is, say, what's the Omega Wave? I would look into Omega Wave. I think it's like $300-400, and that's going to do a much better job of helping you make decisions in terms of your nervous system. Caloric deficit could have something to do with it, but it's probably just the training volume more than anything else. You're doing very highly neural activities very frequently, and that's going to fatigue those systems. Should I be using an upright row for power clean? Yes, I would use an upright row. If you watch the video from the other day with Dylan, I give him that cue to help him keep the bar close to him. So I would recommend doing that. Otherwise, you can reverse curl the bar and it'll float away from you, which is bad. For power clean, should I actively try to squat more after the jump to get under the bar? Only when it's heavy. If you do that too soon, then the bar will crash on you and it'll build some bad habits. That's where you get better in the power clean, though, is when you're at a point where you have to pull yourself under the bar. And a lot of people don't do that well. I have an acute right knee flare up that's been consistently at a 3, top of the kneecap, quad tendon for 2 weeks. My knee has a history of PFP, but it doesn't appear to be the case. I would probably do slow squats, not isos. Slow squats or reverse Nordics work really well for quadricep tendinopathy, and that would be my recommendation. First time Wednesday, when I clean and jerk, I split with my left leg forward, but I know when my brother had split skins, he put the right forward. It doesn't matter. Okay, so maybe there's something to it, but we don't have enough definitive evidence to say. It depends on where you're shifting your weight, depends on how you are at doing split cleans. I would go with what feels the most comfortable, though, for sure. So if you just finished GPP, then that's very general. So we're getting into more specific stuff. We're starting to move heavy weights faster, so we're increasing intensity and specificity. Jumping is high intensity. You need to do heavy lifts if you want to get better at it. As a 2-foot jumper especially, that applies to you. So that's what we're leaning into here. Focus on being healthy coming into the important days on Monday, Wednesday, Friday for you. Pushing intent on the cleans and the squats. That's where you're going to get better in this cycle, Jared. Before this program, I was jumping 2 times a week for 5 months without ever having serious knee pain. My training age is low, technique is still bad, and I have very scarce injury history. 6'5", 200, that's very light. Never done this much volume. Still don't know if it will cause problems as it is. Am I someone who can jump 2 days a week? If you've never had injuries, then yes. I would say start with 1 and build up to 2 towards the end. Let me look at what you're on right now as well. Yeah, I think load management would make more sense. Then you're guaranteed to get it twice a week and you stay healthy that way. Good 1-foot jumper knee pain sometimes annoys me. I jumped well off too. I just need to drive the knee harder and be low. Right, left is shit, but I jump higher, right, left. What should I focus on? I would focus on load management, probably jumping once a week if I were you until you're healthy, and then go back and do your other plants. But just focus on one plant. Don't focus on a bunch of plants. What can one do to better inform you guys as a coach to correctly progress the cycle for future cycles? Giving us testing numbers. That's the number one thing. Testing numbers are so important. Stay healthy and then give us testing numbers after after each week. If I know what your squat's doing, what your clean's doing, and what your sprint times are doing, it's very easy to progress someone. Just oftentimes we don't have data. That's why testing is in there though. Quick question, general days workouts are usually quite short. Would it be possible to add a few upper body those days since it could be useful for me and for volleyball muscle mass, or do you think it would be better too much volume? I would keep it lighter for the purposes of jump training, barbell, dumbbells. I would go, if you want to add some stuff, Eric, on your own, that's fine. But I really discourage guys to do a fully periodized upper body training. It can just become more of the goal, and then your priorities shift around, and then you're not jumping higher anymore. You're just trying to get big. So I would be very careful leaning into that. If you want to do a little bit of one push exercise, one pull exercise on those days, that's fine. And then maybe some accessory work with biceps and triceps and shoulders. That's all good. But don't get too into the weeds with upper body. I've just found that it ends up being a deterrent more than anything else. Guys it ends up convoluting the results a lot. You can ask Isaiah about that. 2 weeks, very fatigued very quickly while doing regular activities. Pickleball, jumping, roughly 50% taper the last 2 weeks is still not better. Strength, explosiveness, VO2 max seem normal. It's just my legs get fatigued quickly and then get sore after. If you're overtrained, David, then we can just unload you super hard. I would recommend taking the rest of this week off and seeing if that's still the case. But you could also just detrain your working, like VO2 max is not the only indicator. It's also what your work rate is at the VO2 max. So if you haven't been doing a lot of that activity and then you do a bunch of novel activity, it's possible. You could also be sick. There's a lot of unrelated activity, unrelated variables that could be affecting that level of fatigue. Maybe you have mono. I'll go to the doctor and maybe get that stuff looked at. It sounds like mono though, based on what you're saying here. If I had to guess this, oh, well, that's just what it sounds like. I'm not a doctor.
No, I'm not sick at all.
I would still well, I mean, let me see here. It also depends on what your definition of fatigued is because
Like my legs will get sore in jump sessions, even though I'm taking like 30-second, 1 minute breaks between jumps, which is like highly unusual.
if you're jumping higher, it's possible. I mean, this cycle is super highly eccentrically loaded, and the last couple cycles were hard. So we could just unload you for a bit, and I would take the rest of this week off. And then and then moving forward, we're going to unload you for a few weeks, and it should bounce back very quickly. The goal right now after this week will be to not train too hard. Don't bury yourself any more than you already are, and we'll test that. We just got to collect some data. First group call, I've had some PFP on and off. Was wondering if I should supplement my deep barbell squats for bottoms up. I would absolutely recommend doing bottoms up. Staying out of pain and staying lighter, Miguel, is really important. So start there and see how it responds. Sometimes guys like can only handle squatting once a week. So that's another thing I've found is that guys with PFP, like really bad PFP, they either can't squat and they have to do a bunch of posterior chain and accessory work to get better. And then the jump session is the knee loading, but start with the bottoms up deep squats first and see if that responds well. Coach Ben wanted to get your thoughts. Delay your penultimate just a tad more. You're pushing too early. Wait for that hip to get over the support leg, then push. Okay, so what he's saying basically is you are pushing too hard too early. You only have 200 milliseconds on the ground. So if you're pushing really, really hard and your foot's casting out in front of you, you're going to end up shorting the penultimate step, not getting a lot of flight time and decelerating at toe off of your penultimate step. What I like to cue guys is watch Josh Rubel's videos, but I like to cue guys to wait until your plant foot knee is in front before you push hard. You have to be patient on mid support until your foot's rolling. When your foot is bridged, kind of like this, and your knee's in front, that's when you push off super aggressively. That's what he means by that. How long should it be training necessarily if you have weak powerlifting records? Like most of my cleans are about 115. Squat max would be, you should be like, your goal should be to be stronger than Isaiah. PFP on your left knee though, then you're going to have to watch that and be careful. Strictly plyos, I would say yesterday was the only time I did strictly plyos and felt less knee pain. That's fascinating. It just sounds like you're doing too much, Paul. There's a lot of convoluted data there. I would say take care of the PFP first. That will get your strength levels up. Then once that's sorted, we can progress you accordingly. Start up basketball again after knee pain. There's certain exercises that I should be able to do. If you can't do isos or squat without pain, you probably don't want to be playing basketball. It depends on what type of knee pain you have, but just recommend like getting healthy first, getting a little bit stronger, and then moving back into basketball. That timeline is very dependent on your individual body, so it just depends. But yeah, you have to be patient and you have to test and test and test and test, but be patient. That's number one. Toe drag's not a bad thing. Volleyball approach, 4-step, stutter in, and that last gather step has to be really long, Dawson. That's probably the biggest thing I would recommend. Kamal, good cues to get a double knee bend. Push the knees back further. Kamal, watch the video I did with Dylan McCarthy on the THP Strength channel. Push the knees back and feel a stretch in the hamstring, then jump and jump as hard as you can. Can you progress power clean with just power clean? Yeah, you can if you get way stronger. Clean pulls help. Yeah, clean pulls definitely help for sure. You can get stronger by just doing power clean or not doing power clean. There's tons tons of ways around it. How long should I work around cleans and overhead lifts if I'm rehabbing my shoulder until your shoulder doesn't hurt anymore is what I would do, or build the cleans back in at very, very light loads. If back squats are provocative, then I would stick on either a leg press or some other like alternative exercise that doesn't cause pain.